All right, welcome back to the Sunday Brunch with Ben and Ned. We're here with our guest Matthew Copple. We've been talking about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and we wanted to quickly kind of share some closing thoughts on that before we move on to another topic. Ned,
Sure.
You want to share what's on your mind?
Sure, and it's a topic we could talk about a long time and probably piss off a whole lot of people. So I will just close with say yes, it's a long time conflict. It's a spiritual and religious conflict. It's also a political, economical conflict, which I think, again, that's just tip of the iceberg there. So, yeah, maybe we'll touch on that. Maybe we'll invite our listeners and viewers to give their feedback somewhere.
Absolutely. Comment and share your thoughts. Maybe we'll revisit that next week. Matthew, you want to share any final thoughts on that?
Well, I think that, as I was saying off the break, I think that the Israeli-Palestinian conflict is the perfect example of the axiom that violence solves absolutely nothing. It honestly doesn't matter how many rockets Hamas sends over the border. It doesn't matter how many bombs Israel drops. It doesn't matter. At the end of this conflict, people are going to hate each other as much as before. And I think it's important that we realize that in a lot of cases, violence only makes conflicts longer. People are afraid of compromise, and I think both sides need to gin up the courage a little bit and be able to look at each other as equals and say, okay, we do have legitimate problems here, let's figure out a way to work it out. Is that going to happen? Yeah, whatever. Check back next week, right?
That's a good thought, and I think that's what I would like to close with as well. Is looking at how the conflict and the violence stems from people's unwillingness to call their own beliefs and their own ideals into question. That we wind up in conflict most often because we're strongly identified with a certain position, a certain outlook, unwilling to question it because we feel we'll be losing some portion of our identity. We see that in Israel and Palestine being played out on the world stage, but look in your own life at where that's being played out in your relationships. So, what's our next topic, Ned? What do you want to talk about today?
I want to talk about an article I read by a brilliant author named Ben Neal.
Oh,
that's you.
I know that guy.
Woohoo! That can be found on the Elephant Journal, elephantjournal.com. And this one's called "There's No Such Thing as Ready."
I remember that one.
It was published, June 7th, 2014. By the way, you can find a lot of Ben's stuff there on the Elephant Journal.
And also connect with me on Facebook. I have a blog and a website launching soon.
There is no such thing as ready. I'm just going to read one paragraph from it. The more I see and do in this world, the more people that I meet and talk to, the more I realize that no one is ever ready for anything, ever. Everyone is pretty much faking it. Making it up as they go along and trying their best to make it look like they've got their shit together. I love that. I love the whole article, actually. So, we started this show recently, Ben, and I think we both took on the attitude, and Dan, our producer, editor, well, we've got a lot to learn. We could wait until we have all the right equipment, until we have everything in order and planned out perfectly, but then we'll probably be waiting a long time. Mm-hmm. So we could just go for it.
So there it is. Do we wait until we're ready, or do we just take an idea and run with it and learn as you go?
And we are.
And we are.
These are audio podcasts right now. The goal is eventually to have a live, interactive audience and live stream and have an interactive audience, maybe via Facebook, or reading comments, people calling in. So we have pretty big ambitions for the show, but we're not going to wait for ourselves to be able to do all that. We're just going to start doing stuff, and we are.
That's right. And if there's anyone out there with a lot of money to invest in a promising new show, get in touch with us. We want to talk to you. but it's funny because recently I've stepped out away from being an hourly employee from having a steady, 9 to 5 job to making a go at being a freelance writer. And that was, it's something that's scary because you're leaving behind benefits. You're leaving behind steady income.
Where were you working?
Security.
Sorry.
Well, at least I hope your job gives you these kind of things. And you're stepping out into the unknown, and if, so I did that. I wrote this article from that experience because I didn't feel ready to do that. I felt very much like I was just faking it, and that I was going to have to make it up as I went along, learn as I go, but I did it anyway because I feel like I could spend the next 10 years of my life working at a job and writing on the side and trying to build my business, and maybe never ever get there until you're willing to just devote your time to it and devote your life to it. And that, I think, is the point of the article for me, is that anything that you really want to see come to pass, you have to start investing in it today, right now, because tomorrow you're going to have something else to do. There's always going to be responsibilities, there's always going to be reasons to put it off. But if you really want to see it happen, now is the time. You have to leap, you have to go for it.
Well, folks, you don't need to read the article anymore because Ben just expressed it like that. No, you still should go find the article. Matthew, your thoughts?
I totally agree with Ben.
And me.
I agree.
And Ned.
Yeah.
I totally agree with Ned too. Okay.
We all agree.
We all agree. Okay, you can shut off the thing now. It's all done. We all agree.
Conflict.
Gosh, too bad. We're never going to be on Crossfire. But the thing I would add is that you need to, if your heart tells you to do it, you need to do it.
Mm-hmm.
You're not always going to be successful. Several years ago, I decided to branch out on a business venture. It was something that I had wanted to do for a while. I did it, and I fell flat on my face. I ended up having to move on to do something. But what is it? Was it Thomas Edison who said, I can't remember what it
The
was.
success was made up of so many.
Yeah, success is made up of failures, right?
That's
That's how you succeed, is by failing. So you learn. And at least the important thing is, there's going to become a day when you're not going to wake up. And the day before that, right, you don't want to go to sleep at night thinking, gosh, I wish I'd done that.
That's better to try and fail than to be on your deathbed thinking, God, I was never brave enough to give it a go.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, we've got that one figured out. Let's move on to the next topic.
Go for it.
Let's.
Speaking of deathbeds,
Ben, what do you? I have a feeling we're going to barely even touch on this subject. So, but what do we got?
Well, we're gonna stir it up anyway. When I heard that Matthew was going to be our guest today, he was Ned introduced you to me as a Buddhist libertarian. When I heard the word Buddhist, I thought this is a great opportunity for me to talk about one of my favorite pieces of contemplative mind candy. The idea that we have in unity or in yoga, in a lot of religions, of the God within, the true self that is one with the whole universe, the God self, versus what I sometimes see in Buddhism and some other non-theistic traditions, the idea of no self, that there is no one home, that when you look behind the eye you find emptiness, you find nothing. And how, to me, in my experience, those are two ways of looking at the same experience. But I just wanted to throw that topic out there, and Matthew, you have any thoughts on that?
well, actually, that is precisely what I would say, is that they are two ways of describing exactly the same thing. What we're really trying to say is that the thoughts that I have of the moment, wherever they come from, whether we believe that they are, just originated through mechanical processes or whether there is our God self, what we have right here is what we have.
Mm-hmm.
You can call it a no self, you can call it a God self. It doesn't matter what you call it, quite frankly, because it's already gone and now you're back, right? Every moment, it's just, that's all you have. Too many people, when we talk about God self versus no self versus shunyata, or one of the words that I tend to use is pleroma. which is just the opposite of shunyata. Shunyata is more like formlessness or emptiness. Pleroma means fullness. And I prefer that just because I'm a glass half full guy. A glass half empty guy might prefer the other one, I don't know. But the thing is that too many of us get stuck either in the past or in the future, and we forget that where we actually live is right here. That's the important part. And before I started studying Buddhism, I had studied Stoicism, which is an ancient Greek religion. Ancient Greek philosophy. Excuse me, philosophy geeks. Please don't hurt me.
I'm not going to put up with that shunyata going on over there.
But I found that the two were very much the same, and that both of them really preach the same thing at the root, and that is, don't be attached to what isn't truly real. Be attached to what is real, and what is the only thing that is real? Now.
Are we back to the topic of Israel? Oh, never mind. Wow, that's.
Oh, was it? Yeah.
That's great. And so it comes back to the practice of mindfulness, whether there is self or non-self. I like to think of the God self that as God is in each of us, but not in the way that there's a balloon inside me somewhere that is God. God is
God balloon.
God is in you the way a recipe is in a cake. It's not. You don't say a recipe is in a cake like there's a piece of paper folded up in there and you're going to find it in one particular slice. It's the intelligence, it's the process of creation behind it, and it's expressing as that cake. God is in you the way your hard work is in the house that you just built, or that you are continuing to build. So it's God's self is, there is no self. It's not like it's physically part of me. It is just the truth of who and what we are.
Well, if you look at us, we just go into physics, right? Every single thing in this room is composed of the same set of elements. You and I and the chair and the walls and the famous in the Jesus picture. We're all composed of the same stuff, right? We got oxygen, carbon, nitrogen, and whatever other elements there are.
And there's 99% empty. Anyway.
Exactly. So whether it's a carpeting on the wall, a snail out there, or you, the fact is we have a lot more in common than we do differences. We create those differences in ourselves. So when I think of God, I think, well, that's us, right? That's this universe, this reality. We talk about interdependence in Buddhism a lot. Sure. Well, truly, if you think of, you just look at a physics textbook and you can tell we're definitely all interdependent. We're all made out of the same stuff. When my body dies, it's going to end up becoming dirt. It's going to end up becoming a rose sometime. Maybe it's going to become a whatever. But that to me is what I'm thinking of when I talk about that God self. Is that we experience the world, obviously, and we experience the world as being different. But truly, I couldn't exist in this moment. The two of you are part of my existence. You're part of me, I'm part of you. Because we're sitting here interacting with each other. I'm going a little...
I think we're going to have to leave it there.
Philosophical there.
I think we're going to have to leave it there.
That's beautiful, Matthew.
That is. I think we're going to have him back on.
I think so too.
Well, thank you.
I like that very much.
We appreciate having you on today.
Do we want to share a few reflections as we close out the show?
Sure.
What have you learned today, Ned?
What did we learn on the show today? That we have viewer mail. We can we can get feedback and read viewer mail.
That is awesome. I would like it if that became a regular feature of the show.
Let's just hope we get at least one more comment.
Let's encourage listener feedback.
Maybe my mom can give me a call.
I'd say hi, Mom, but my mom's dead. Sorry.
Matthew, what did you learn on the show?
You got anything you learned today?
That I could go through a half-hour podcast and I've never been on a podcast before, so thank you.
Time went quick, didn't it?
It's a great experience.
And very well.
Nobody threw vegetables at me or kicked me out of the room. I was kind of happy.
That's the after show party.
That's when things get really wild. And I learned that everyone seems to agree with me. I think I need to look out farther into the world and find some people to argue with to spice things up a little bit. No, but on a serious note, it feels good to know that you're not alone, that sometimes the ideas that you have that aren't in line with the mainstream, that sometimes seem crazy and far out, it's good to know that there are other people that feel the same.
Excellent. You've been listening to the Sunday Brunch with Ben and Ned. Thanks to our special guest, Matthew Copple. Thanks to our editor, Dan, not here today, but good luck with using the material we're going to give you. And tune in next week. Until then,
peace.